Imagine it's an ordinary night. You're on your phone, not really doing anything, just scrolling through like you normally do. And then you see it. A photo, a story. Maybe a notification popped up from a group chat, and it's a group photo of your friend on a Saturday at somewhere you weren't. And nobody did anything wrong. Nobody was mean or anything. There's no message to be mad about. Nothing you can point to. It's just a picture of a night you weren't a part of. And something your stomach drops anyway. And then the whole evening quietly reorganizes itself around a photo you should have forgotten in 2 seconds. You go back and look again. You check who else is there. You start doing this quiet, awful math about where you sit with these people. And underneath all of it is a question you keep asking yourself. Am I being left out on purpose? And the worst part is not only how stupid it feels to be this hurt over a simple photo, but you feel paralyzed to even ask your friend why you weren't invited. So you tell nobody, and you carry this pain by yourself the entire night. So if you ever had a perfectly normal evening wrecked by a picture of something you weren't a part of, if you ever felt way too much about something way too small, this episode is for you. Welcome to Self-Full, the show where we look at the small social moment that hits way harder than they should and figure out what's actually going on underneath. My name is Wilson, and this is one of those things almost everybody feels and almost nobody says out loud, because saying it out loud sounds like a confrontation and could lead to an awkward end of a friendship, and not everybody is ready for that or wants to go there. Plus, I saw a photo and it ruined my night sounds ridiculous the second you say it, because it may suggest you're emotionally fragile or unstable. So people carry it on their own and quietly decide they're pathetic for caring that much. And I couldn't stop wondering why something that small hits that hard. So I went and dug into it, and the answer turned out to be a lot older, a lot more physical than I expected. So today we're going to explore why feeling left out hurts so much more than a moment actually deserves. And it's not because you're being dramatic. We're going to talk about what that painful feeling is really costing you. And by the end of this episode, you'll have the tools that stops you from spiraling down towards negativity, how to be seen without being confrontational, and how to stop you from having to wait around to be included. And this isn't about caring less or pretending you're above it. So stick around, because this is where feeling left out stopped ruining your week. So let's break it down since we're dealing with a specific type of pain here. This isn't a fight. This isn't somebody being mean to you. There's no villain in this story at all. That's what makes it so hard to deal with. I mean, if someone insults you, at least you know what to do with that. But this is different. This is an absence. Nothing happened, and you can't exactly march up to somebody and go, hey, why wasn't I at that dinner I didn't know about? I mean, you could, but that might just make you look a bit dramatic and make things awkward in the group, which could end up pushing you away from everyone. So instead, the pain just turns inward, and you find yourself doing this exhausting deep dive. You start rereading old messages, trying to pinpoint where things change. You count how many times you've been invited lately, and you scrutinize photos to see who's in them and where they were standing. It could be a gathering with friends, or work lunch you only found out about afterwards, or a family event everyone thought you couldn't attend. Each time you find out about the absence, it hits you the same way. And here's the part that really gets people. It's not even the loudest pain. It's more like a constant background hum. You can go about your evening, do the dishes, watch something on TV, and the whole time there's this slow thing running in the background, like a tap you can't close. But before we dive in deeper, there's something very important for you to understand. You are not being dramatic. You are not needy, and you're definitely not too sensitive. Let's just be clear about this, because those are just the label you give yourself when you can't explain why something that seems small hurts so much. And by the end of this, you'll have a much better understanding than just thinking you're being too sensitive. So let's start with the pain. Why does something this small hit so hard? Because the answer is a lot more physical than you think, which leads us to point one. It hurts because it's supposed to. Here's the first thing, and it takes the shame out of this immediately. That pain you feel isn't a personality flaw. It's an alarm, and it's a very old one. For almost all of human history, being part of a group wasn't just a bonus. It was the whole survival plan. You ate because the group shared food. You slept because someone else was awake. And so getting pushed out of your group wasn't just painful emotionally. It was physically fatal. So your brain built an alarm system to catch the earliest possible sign that you were slipping on the edge, and it made that alarm hurt, genuinely hurt, because the pain is what makes you act fast. And the funny thing is that alarm doesn't know what year it is right now. It doesn't know that these are just some friends who got dinner and that you're going to see them Thursday and that your survival is not remotely at stake. All it sees is the same old shape it always pick up. A group of people together and you are not part of it. So it does what it's designed to make sure you are on full alert. So the pain, the sting isn't proof that something terrible happened. The sting is just proof that the alarm works. And that's the confusion that messes people up. We tend to think of pain like it's a measurement. A little pain means a small issue, and a lot of pain means a big deal. So when a photo hits you hard, your brain goes, this hurts a lot, so it's gotta mean something important. It must mean I am being pushed out of the group. It must mean they don't want me. But think about it. An alarm doesn't really measure what's going on. Like a smoke alarm goes off the same way for a burnt toast as it does for a house fire. That just shows that the alarm works. The volume doesn't show you how serious it is. And your social alarm does exactly the same thing. It blares just as loudly for missing dinner as it does for losing a close friendship because it can't tell the difference. It just makes a lot of noise to get your attention. And the real problem isn't that it hurts. It's what you do in the 10 minutes after. Your brain hears this loud alarm and assumes it's a big deal. So it starts spiraling, trying to figure out what that means about you. And that search can go on forever. There is no solid answer at the end because you're just guessing about what other people are thinking. And that can be endless. So instead of letting your brain go down that never-ending path, let's give it something small and clear to focus on instead. And here's the first tool. Acknowledge your pain, then give yourself 3 good things. So first things first, acknowledge your own feeling. Say, ow. You can do this out loud or just in your head. Ow, that really hurts. Don't downplay it with thoughts like, I'm just being silly, or why do I even care? Just admit that it hurts. Call it what it is, a bruise, a sting, and it's totally okay to feel hurt about it. I know that might sound soft, but it is crucial because you can't move on from a feeling if you're still fighting against it. And a lot of people skip straight to beating themselves up, which means they're battling themselves on 2 fronts, the hurt itself and the shame of feeling hurt. And this first step really matters here, more than you might think. What's coming next might seem like trying to force yourself to think positively, but looking on the bright side before you admit that you're hurt is just lying to yourself in a friendlier way. That's toxic positivity. So make sure you say ow first, then we'll go from there. Next, name 3 things that are actually good right now. Say them out loud if you can. I'll give you an example. Good thing I get to stay in and have some time for myself. Good thing I'm seeing 2 of them on Thursday anyway. Good thing I didn't have to come home late and not have enough sleep. Just find 3 good things and then you can stop. And that's the entire trick. Now there's one key rule that decides if this approach works or to send you down in a different kind of rabbit hole. All 3 points needs to be things you can actually check out for yourself, like real facts with proof, because there's a fake version of this that's actually worse than doing nothing. It sounds like, they probably still like me, or I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it, or I bet they just forgot. See, those are the kind of thoughts that are not helpful because they're just guesses about what someone else might be thinking. And deep down, your brain knows that. That's why you can say them and feel nothing at all. This kind of guessing is worse than doing nothing because it just hands you more questions to stress over. Something like, do they still like me? Did they mean something by it? And before you know it, you're right back where you started. So remember, no mind reading. No, probably. Just stick to 3 solid facts. Let me give you an example. Say it's 10 p.m. and you're binging something on TV when a notification on your phone, a story pops up, and it's for your friends at a bar, laughing it up. And it's clear they've been having a great time for a while, having a great time without you being present. And you can feel that gut punch, like the floor just dropped out from under you. The OU would have opened the photo again, check who posted it, and scroll through to see if anyone else liked it. Then you dive into the group chat and go back 2 weeks to find the exact moment they stopped including you. And before you know it, it's midnight and you feel worse than when you started. But this time, you are trying something different. You say it out loud. Ouch, that really stings. You acknowledge your own feeling. And then you come up with 3 good things. Good thing number 1, I had dinner with 2 of these friends just last week. Good thing number 2, I get to stay in and binge watch this TV show. Good thing number 3, I told them I've been super tired from work lately, which, now come to think of it, is probably why I wasn't in that picture. You might still feel a bit down, but at least you've stopped obsessing over it, and it doesn't turn your whole evening into a downward spiral. And so why does this trick work? There are 3 reasons. First, it brings things to a close. Your brain likes to have something to do. So by giving it a task, like finding 3 good things and then stop, you've set a limit. If you keep asking yourself, what does this mean about me? This can go on forever, which is why you can lose hours to it. But name 3 good things ends when you hit 3 reasons. Second, it gives your mind the kind of proof it needs. Remember why the alarm went off in the first place? Your brain is thinking you're on the outside looking in. Just telling yourself it's okay doesn't cut it. Reassurance is just more words. But saying, I had dinner with 2 of them last week is a solid fact that goes against the alarm. It is not comfort. It is proof. And the third reason, and this is a sneaky one, the simplest answer usually just shows up. You weren't trying to figure out why you weren't invited. But while listening was true, it could hit you like, oh, right, I told them I'd been feeling really drained from work, so that's probably it. The explanation can come up as a side effect of just doing this little inventory check. And so often you don't really have to dig deep to find it. But there are 2 things to keep in mind with this. First, what if you really can't come up with 3 good things? And it can happen. Sometimes you manage to think of just 1, and then you just hit a wall. Telling yourself to try harder isn't super helpful. So here's something better. Widen your frame. The 3 good things don't all have to be about that specific group or even about people. For example, good thing, my sister called me on Sunday. Good thing, I already have plans for Saturday. Good thing, I might feel alone, but I really aren't. All of those count. You're not trying to prove a point about one friendship. You're just reminding yourself you are not alone. Anything you can check that backs that up will work. And if you widen the frame and still can't find 3 things, if it honestly feels like things have quieted down lately, then you found something real. That's not a downward spiral. That's just information, which we'll address later on in point 3. And second, do this early. It is most effective in the first minute, before your emotion takes over. Once you're 20 minutes in scrolling and weaving your own narrative, coming up with 3 good things can feel like someone cutting in while you're telling a story. The version of you who first felt that dip is easier to reach than the one who's been stuck in those feelings for a while. So the moment you feel that, act on it. Don't wait until later when you think you've earned the right to find the positives. So now that you know to acknowledge your pain and give yourself 3 good things is how you turn off the alarm without getting stuck in negativity. But even if you handle that first night perfectly, there's something else that pops up. This issue doesn't hit right away. It creeps in over the next few days, and it's so quiet you might not even notice you're doing it, which leads us to point 2. The real damage is what you do next. This is what turns a one-time experience into something that keeps happening. When you start feeling left out, a protective instinct kicks in. It makes sense in the moment. Okay, I get it. I'm not as wanted here as I thought, so I'll pull back a bit. Then you start making little change. You take longer to reply in the group chat. You hold back from sending that funny comment you had in mind. When someone said, we should hang out, you go with a simple reply like, yeah, sure, instead of actually picking a date. And before you know it, you've been slowly fading out from this friendship. I mean, I get it. It can feel like you're protecting yourself, like you've got some dignity. But really, it's like you're slipping out of the room slowly enough for no one to notice until they actually stop noticing you. And this creates a cycle that traps you. You pull back to keep yourself from getting hurt, which makes people invite you less because you seem less interested. Then you use that as proof that you were right to pull back in the first place. You see how this starts to build a vicious cycle? That's the trap. From the outside, no one sees someone who's hurt and trying to protect themselves. They just see someone who's gone a bit quiet, who seems busy, or who maybe doesn't want to join in. People aren't great at reaching out after receiving too many polite declines. Eventually, they won't ask again. So you end up creating this very thing you were afraid of through your own self-protective mechanism, one small polite decline at a time. Nobody kicks you out. You just quietly step back until there was a gap. And just to be clear, this isn't your fault. It's your alarm system going off and not doing its job well. When it signals danger, you're on the edge. The instinct is to make yourself avoid getting hurt. That instinct is ancient and tries to help, but it only focuses on getting a quick fix rather than looking at things long term. I think you know exactly what I mean. So what's the solution? Just a heads up, it might seem very small. And here's the second tool. One line, not a mood. The approach is actually very simple. A day or two after you feel left out, send just one message. One. This isn't about starting a conversation or confronting anyone. It's simply one line. And it can be almost anything. For example, you might say, that looks fun. Count me in next time. Or, wow, that place looks amazing. Something that you would have sent on a typical day. It's important to emphasize that this should be one line, not just act normal for a week. Acting normal is a mood, and you can't fake a mood, especially not for a whole week or while you are feeling down. You shouldn't have to pretend to be fine. Every suggestion that tells you to just be your usual self assumes you're not upset, which isn't the case right now. But what you can manage, even when you feel terrible, is sending a brief message, one line. And that's the whole point. It needs to be small enough to accomplish on a bad day, or it simply won't get done. Again, this isn't about pretending you're okay. You can send that line and still feel awful at the same time. Both feelings can coexist. Let me give you an actual example. Say it's been one day after you saw that photo that you weren't a part of, and nothing really happened. No one has done anything in that group chat. And you're still feeling a bit off, of course, but you'd totally deny it if someone asked. And suddenly you came across this funny video, a video you usually would have shared it in a group chat, but it's just sitting there unsent because you've decided to skip it this time. There's this annoying little voice telling you, why bother? You're obviously not a priority. Just let it go. It almost feels like the classy thing to do, like you'd be saving face by not reaching out. But then you realize that's not really you making that call. It's just the emotional mess talking. So you decided to send the silly video anyway. That's the key move. You don't wait to feel better or pump yourself up for it. You sent it while still feeling pretty bad about everything, but you still sent it anyway. Then someone replies with a bunch of crying, laughing emojis. Your feelings aren't exactly fixed, at least not yet, but you now realize that you're still in the loop. Your friend still responds to your funny video. When the next plan gets pulled together, you are included in the thread. Not because you've won anyone over, but because you never actually backed out. So why does that one funny video or that one line really matter? Because feeling usually fades away on their own, but our actions driven by that initial emotion can have a lasting impact without us even realizing it until it's too late. That's the gist of it. The sting from that photo might fade away in a few days no matter what you do, but that silence that you choose to out of spite, that can stick around. If you are a little less present for the next 6 weeks, it can create a real distance from the people you actually care about. So that one line, that one funny video is your way of choosing not to let the fleeting feeling makes the decision that lasts. It does the same thing as pulling back. It shows people that you're still around and still interested. They can't figure that out any other way. From their point of view, they might not see you hurting. They might just think you're busy or you want to be distant. But before we move on to the next point, there are two common misunderstandings about this approach that are really important. First off, your message needs to be straightforward. Some people send messages that seems friendly but are actually just passive-aggressive digs. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, looks like you all had a great time without me. Or, must be nice to be someone that you actually care. See, those aren't genuine attempts to connect. They are more like a way to show that you are hurt and hoping for sympathy. This can make the other person feel defensive and act differently around you, creating an awkward vibe. The real power of this technique is that it doesn't put pressure on them. It should just be a simple, easygoing message that any normal version of you would have sent. And second, what if there's no natural way to jump in? Sometimes there isn't a photo to comment or a conversation happening. In those cases, don't try to force your message into the group chat. Instead, reach out to someone individually and ask them something casual like, how was the thing on Friday? This one-on-one message can really hit better because it feels more personal than the group chat. And here's an important thing to keep in mind. Sometimes you might send a message and get no response at all. You could end up with silence or just a thumbs up. and you might feel a bit silly for even reaching out. But remember, your message still did its job. You weren't looking for reassurance. You were just keeping yourself in the loop with that group. And that was accomplished the moment you hit send. What matters is your action. Their reply isn't the main thing, and it was never the payoff. So now you can name what's bothering you, figure out how it all came about, and keep a little bit of communication going. But you might have noticed that the first two tools are really just about damage control. They help stop things from getting worse, but they don't actually give you what you were craving in the first place. Then this last move is the game changer because it means you won't have to wait around for someone else to pick you up, which leads us to point 3. Stop waiting to be invited. Build a room. Okay, this is the last one, and it's the key point I want you to remember. Everything we talked about so far has one thing in common. You're the one waiting. You're checking the photo, reading the group chat, and watching the invite list. Without ever deciding to, you find yourself in a completely passive position where your sense of belonging depends entirely on whether other people include you on the list or not. See, the unspoken truth is that you are never going to be on every list, not because you're not liked or not respected, but simply due to logistic. Someone lives 4 minutes away from someone else. 2 people work together and it just happened to come together at 5 p.m. on a Thursday. Most rooms you're not in have nothing to do with you at all. They're about proximity, timing, and whoever happened to be available. So here's the reframe. Belonging isn't something you get put on the list for. It's something you build. The people who feels like they belong everywhere are usually not the most invited. They are the one who makes the plans. And that's genuinely good news because it shifts the power away from others and puts it back into your hand. The photo that you saw that you were invited, someone made that happen. Someone sent the message, chose the night, and create a gathering. That's all it was. And that's all any of this ever is. So instead of monitoring the rooms that you're not in, use this third tool, build a room. The move is simple. This week, make one small plan and invite people to it. For it to truly be a room, it needs 3 essential components: a day, a time, and a place. Saying we should hang out soon is not a plan. This is not building a room. That is just a wish. Instead, say, anyone around Thursday? I'm getting food at that place near the station around 7. Now that's building a room, and people can walk into it. Remember to keep it small. This isn't about throwing a party or anything. It can just be for 2 other people or this one particular person. It can be a coffee or sitting somewhere together. Small rooms are the ones that are actually more inviting and easier for people to accept, and those are where the real conversation takes place. So why does this tool work? 2 reasons. The first is practical. It changes the actual situation rather than just reinterpreting it. All the analyzing in the world doesn't get you a Thursday with your friends. Sending one message does. The second reason is even more important. When you're the person who made the room, the entire situation changed. You stop being someone waiting to find out if they're wanted and become someone who gathers people. That's a significant shift. It alters your entire relationship to the situation. See, the discomfort we discussed at the beginning emerged when you were on the edge of the group, but it's almost impossible to feel like you're on the fringe of a room that you built. And this is how it ties everything together. The 3 good thing technique helps stop the bleeding. The one line approach minimizes the leaking, but building a room is the only strategy that actively adds something to your life. The more you do it, the less you feel left out, because your sense of belonging no longer depends on one group's invite list. It's rooted in something you're actively creating. One thing to keep in mind though, sometimes people will say no. Someone might be busy, someone might flake, or nobody may be able to make it on Thursday. That's not a verdict. It's just Thursday. Pick another day and send out the invitation again. Don't let one no-show ruin your whole day. Here's a scenario. Say it's the Monday after the week you saw that photo you weren't in it. And instead of getting stuck refreshing your phone, hoping someone would think of you, you decide to switch things up. You open the group chat and your heart starts racing a bit as you type, anyone free Thursday? I'm grabbing noodles at that place by the station around 7. You feel a little vulnerable for a few seconds after hitting send. But then 2 friends says yes. One friend said he can't make it but asked if next week works. When Thursday rolls around, you're sitting at the table with 2 friends. It's totally ordinary but actually really nice. And somewhere during that time, you realize you haven't thought about that photo in days. Not because you worked through it, but because you created something better than just overthinking. So that's the whole thing. Let's do a recap. When you see that photo that you aren't a part of, it is natural to think, ouch, that hurt. And it is totally okay to feel that way. Remember to acknowledge that feeling. Then find 3 good things in that situation. Just 3 and stop right there. Make sure they are real facts, not just guesses. Within a day or 2, reach out to one of those people you just thought of. Keep it simple and do it while you're still feeling a bit off. After that, stop waiting around for someone else to make plans. Go ahead and set up a hangout with those same people. Remember to pick a day, a time, and a place. Build a room that are easy for people to walk in naturally. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's the last part. This week, make a small plan and send it. Instead of saying, we should hang out soon, be specific. Let's meet Thursday at 7 p.m. at that spot near the station. And I promise you, that single message will do more for your mood than obsessing over a photo ever could. And I get it. It might feel a bit vulnerable to do this at the first time. You'll hit send and think you might be asking for too much. That feeling is normal, but it's also misleading. Sometimes people will be busy. And when they say, can't make it Thursday, it just means that they're busy, nothing more. Sometimes you might nail this and still feel a little sting when you see a photo. That's fine too. Those feelings don't just go away. They get quieter and quieter and starts to lose its grip on you. Now, remember how we started? You scrolling on your phone on a regular night, stumbling upon a photo of a table you weren't at, that awkward question under it, and my being left out on purpose? Here's what I want you to understand. That question isn't answered by a photo. A shot of 4 people at a bar just tells you where they were on a Saturday, and that is it. Nothing more. Anything else you're thinking comes from you. You're the one doing the guessing, and they are not facts. The actual answer you're seeking isn't going to pop up in your notifications. It shows up when you create a gathering with people who say yes. You don't have to wait to be picked. You can do the picking. If this episode has been helpful for you, I encourage you to start with the 3rd tool. That's the whole point. The act of reaching out is what matters. And if you do end up making plans this week, I'd really love to hear about how it turns out. You can find me on Instagram at selffulpodcast or drop a comment on whatever you're listening to this podcast on. So this week, don't wait for an invite. Go ahead and send one. Pick a day, a time, and a place. And who knows, you might be the one who makes a friend feels included when they really needed it. And remember, I'm always here for you. Take care.